What's up, guys? We are back with another video. I am HHTrader. We'll be going over week 2 of November, or going into week 2 of November. We have a couple of updates, so we want to get those over to you. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk through market, policy, and crypto updates of November 2025, week 2. Get into it. First thing is, of course, we know it, the government shutdown and policy developments. So since October 1st, the United States has been experiencing its longest government shutdown in history, now surpassing 38 days. Now, the last one was 35 days. This prolonged shutdown has led to significant disruptions across multiple sectors. Over 2 million federal civilian employees and nearly 3 million military personnel have missed paychecks, causing widespread financial strain. The Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) has implemented phased flight reductions at 40 major airports, resulting in thousands of cancellations and delays. Additionally, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is SNAP, which supports 42 million Americans, remains in limbo after the Supreme Court temporarily blocked a lower court's order to restore full funding. Other essential services such as Head Start programs, that's like for the little kids, I believe, and housing assistance have also been disrupted. Economically, the shutdown has shaved approximately 18 billion off of the fourth quarter GDP, with small businesses losing an estimated 170 million daily. Consumer confidence has declined sharply, and bipartisan negotiations in Congress remain stalled, exacerbating the crisis. So, government shutdown is still on a roll. We are really just in, like I said, we're in limbo. We are waiting for a glimpse of hope from one of the sides that are fighting and keeping this thing halted. You know, people are trying to get paid. People, if we go into 2 months of not getting these payments to federal workers and people that are working and are out here paying the taxes that feed into SNAP benefits, that feed into all of these other things, you know, being behind that, even if you are furloughed your payment amounts, you still, if you haven't made those payments, still have to pay that out of what you get. So it's pretty much just going to put them back at break even at best, right? At best. But the longer that this goes on, it's getting worse. So let's continue to push on. Next thing, Trump trade and foreign policy developments, U.S.-China trade agreement, and global diplomacy. President Donald Trump finalized a comprehensive trade and economic agreement with Chinese President Xi during a diplomatic summit in South Korea. The deal includes China's commitment to halt the flow of fentanyl precursor chemicals into the U.S., suspend new export controls on rare earth elements, and purchase 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans by the end of 2025. So they got to purchase that in like a month. And continued purchases of 20 million tons annually through 2028. 25 million tons annually, okay, until 2028. In return, the U.S. Agreed to reduce tariffs on Chinese imports by 10% points, 10% points starting November 10th. Okay, so we are 2 days away from that, and suspend heightened reciprocal tariffs until November 2026. Additional agreements were reached with Malaysia and Cambodia, and frameworks for negotiations were established with Thailand and Vietnam. Japan and South Korea pledged major investments in U.S. critical minerals. Now, let me not confuse that. So, additional agreements were reached with Malaysia and Cambodia, and frameworks for negotiations were established with Thailand and Vietnam. Japan and South Korea pledged major investments in U.S. critical minerals, shipyards, and energy infrastructure, including South Korea's commitment to build a nuclear-powered submarine in Philadelphia. The Supreme Court is currently reviewing the legality of Trump's broad use of tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, which could impact future foreign policy leverage. Meanwhile, the U.S. secured a 20-point peace deal in Gaza, intensified sanctions on Iran and Russia, and lifted restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles. Relations in India have cooled, with India now facing higher U.S. Tariffs than China. And so, India is kind of like they're getting hit. They're getting hit by quite a bit, especially now China outweighing China in tariffs. While Mexico's trade deadline was extended amid ongoing negotiations on electric vehicles and semiconductor projects. Okay, so India's, wow. For them to be outpacing China is crazy, but India has a lot of wealth. They build and make a lot of products. So I'm guessing these tariffs are being aimed at them next because they're one of the big heads of so many different imports and exports, or imports into the US. All right, let's push on to the next one. Market volatility. All right, so we're talking about the stock market movements, crypto movements, and let's get into it. So, stock market and crypto market movements. November 2025 has seen notable volatility in both stock and cryptocurrency markets. In the stock market, a tech-led sell-off affected major AI companies such as Amazon, Nvidia, and AMD. Despite this, Amazon experienced a 9.6% surge following a strong Q3 earnings and a strategic partnership with OpenAI. The Nasdaq index dropped 2% on November 4th, although the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average remained relatively stable. Another one to look out for, Netflix. Netflix is doing a 10-for-1 stock split. So they're basically diluting their stock to increase investor sentiment. Say, make it cheaper, right? So if you have none, you'll have a cheaper time getting some. But if you have some, you'll get even more, basically. But dilution is dilution. We'll see if the Netflix's value continues to hold up. So yeah, Netflix announced a 10-for-1 stock split, which boosted retail investor interest. In the crypto space, Bitcoin experienced a correction. It was up to like 126,000, but I mean, since November 1st, it really came on back down to the 110s and then came all the way back down to the 100,000 mark, which is kind of floating around now. And we'll see if it will rebound or if it's going to stabilize or what's the next move, depending on what news drops on this upcoming week. Ethereum maintains stability between 3,600 and 3,900, with increased whale accumulation ahead of its upcoming Fusaka hard fork. Solana launched its spot ETF, attracting a significant institutional inflows. Altcoins and GameFi tokens also gained traction, with privacy-focused cryptocurrencies leading the rally. Right. Next thing, so privacy coin trends. All of this talk about decentralization and making people anonymous, and now we have coins that are specifically trying to protect the privacy of users and holders. So let's see what these have in store. So privacy-focused cryptocurrencies have experienced a remarkable surge in November 2025, positioning themselves as strategic assets amid increasing regulatory scrutiny and demand for financial being anonymous financially. Zcash surged from approximately $80 to highs of $650, overtaking Monero in market capitalization. Dash DASH, and let me give the symbols for these. So Zcash is ZEC. Okay, surged from approximately $80 up to highs of $650, overtaking Monero and market capitalization. Dash DASH is this symbol. Also saw a significant rally, climbing from 19 to 150, breaking out of a prolonged bear market. Monero, which his symbol is XMR, posted modest gains, while new entrants like Ghost and Horizon recorded triple-digit growth. Key drivers of this surge include technical upgrades such as Zcash's Zashi wallet and the upcoming halving event, which has fueled speculation and supply scarcity. Institutional interest, exemplified by Grayscale Zcash Trust, has further validated the sector. Privacy coins are increasingly viewed as a hedge against surveillance and regulatory pressures, offering enhanced transaction confidentiality through technologies like ZK Snarks and CoinJoin. The hype surrounding privacy coins is also driven by market rotation, and investors seek new narratives amid stagnation in midstream cryptocurrencies. These developments underscore the growing strategic importance of privacy coins in the evolving digital asset landscape. So privacy is what people are pushing for. Earlier, November 1st, our first week update, we talked about the tokenization of different assets. Like, let's say if you have Amazon or Tesla or some kind of asset, having a token that actually is that asset. So you can buy a Amazon coin that is Amazon. So if you hold 1,000 Amazon coin, you hold 1,000 Amazon. The only difference is the transaction speeds will be super fast, right? You're being able to move that capital, move that coin, and being able to sell it for other crypto, use it in these other wallets, these other ledgers, crypto ledgers and things like that. It's really starting to transition these currencies and give them multiple ways to be sped up. And to think about it, the even with dividends, and I want to see how they work this out with the coins. How are they going to do? Let's say if you have a dividend stock that is tokenized, can you receive your dividends in coins? Can you receive your dividends in cash? Can you choose? Where can you vote? It's so many questions to be asked with this tokenization and all of these new privacy standards that are being reassessed, re-strategized, and re-implemented. Let's move on to the next thing. We have AI infrastructure or AI infrastructure investments. We're looking at the major cloud partnerships and AI expansion. So out here we have our major cloud partnerships and AI expansion. November 2025 has witnessed a surge in cloud and AI infrastructure investments. My picture is a little bit over this. Let me move that video. Yeah. Okay, so that's what that says. November 2025 has witnessed a surge in cloud and AI infrastructure investments, signaling a strategic shift from speculative hype to practical implementation. OpenAI announced a $38 billion deal with AWS to secure NVIDIA's GPUs, marking a departure from its previous exclusive reliance on Microsoft Azure. Microsoft itself revealed a $9.7 billion agreement with IREN, IREN, or IREN, and a multi-billion-dollar partnership with Lambda to bolster its AI infrastructure. Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon have increased their capital expenditure guidance for 2025, focusing on the development of AI-specific data centers. Samsung and CoreWeave have also entered into multi-billion-dollar partnerships aimed at constructing AI mega factories. These investments are part of a broader trend with global AI infrastructure spending projected to reach 1.5 trillion. Repeat, it's going to reach 1.5 trillion in 2025. So we have a month or so left of this year, and it's going to reach 1.5 trillion. That is some insane capital movement, insane cash flow. The strategic importance of these developments lies in their potential to reshape the technology landscape, enhance computational capabilities, and support the next generation of AI applications across industries. So AI, if you haven't heard, AI is the thing right now. It is the news. It is the catalyst. And anything that is tied to it seems to be going to the moon. We have been looking for different topics to trade in small caps and things. If a small cap is tied to AI, it is probably going to be a little bit of heat. It's going to be a little bit of fire behind it, right? But so far in the small caps, we haven't seen anything that has really excited people like the mid caps and large caps with AI. So people just getting blessed. You just got to realize that sometimes your blessing it's not your season to be blessed. You feel me? All right, let's move on to the next thing. So here is our conclusion, where we're going, where we're moving to. Let's get into it. So key takeaways. The events of November 2025 highlight a period of significant transformation and volatility across policy, markets, and technology. The government shutdown remains the most pressing issue, with widespread economic and social repercussions. Meanwhile, President Trump's trade and foreign policy maneuvers have reshaped the international relations, particularly with China, South Korea, and other Asia's Pacific nations. Stock and crypto markets have exhibited notably more volatility over the last week even. I mean, these corrections, these pullbacks, and in these pullbacks, I'm like, man, let me see what I can buy. Let me see what I can be in on, because I don't want to miss it and then everything starts to go up and the next dip isn't until we don't know when the next dip will be, right? So it's one of those things you need to take advantage of the current market situation and then adjust. If your positions are looking crazy, but you bought what you thought was the dip, maybe it's a reevaluation of how you actually enter your trades, right? Maybe you entered a little bit too large and got burned. Maybe you enter too small, but I think the smaller starts are better because it gives you a little bit of gauge. Like if it does fall a lot more, you just add, right? You can average down, get a little bit more. But if you start off with a 10,000 share position and you're like, this thing's turning around in the next week, we don't know that. You know, it's better to feel the market out, do your cost basis analysis, and kind of just get the best price that you get closer to the price that you actually want, and don't rush into it, especially with all this high volatility. All right, let's keep going. So talk about the Asia Pacific nations. Stock and crypto markets have exhibited notable volatility driven by sector rotations and technical developments. Privacy coins have emerged as leaders in the crypto space, fueled by demand for anonymous transactions, financial anonymous transactions, regulatory concerns, and institutional interest. Simultaneously, cloud and AI infrastructure investments are accelerating, indicating a long-term strategic pivot toward technological innovation. Looking ahead, stakeholders should monitor regulatory developments, supply shocks such as crypto halvings, and continued institutional engagement across sectors to navigate the evolving landscape effectively. So that is our market update. I am HHTrader. I will be back with another update. We'll get into it next time, but these are the things that we want to keep in mind going into these new weeks. Hey, what topics have been on the top of big investors' mind? Because what we have to do as retail investors is find where the money is. And if the money is not where you want it to be, that doesn't mean just go and do and trade what you normally trade, because the money's not there. So you can get burned like that. You're like, oh, well, I'm just going to ignore what's going on in the market. I'm just going to trade what I'm going to trade. Okay. But anyway, looking forward to this week of trading. You can find me live streaming pre-markets. And yeah, that's it for me. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to the HHTrader market update. Peace.
Hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on so you're ready for a new episode every Sunday. This is Wall Street and Web3 with HHTrader and Framework Fortune. What's up? It's Frame. Shout out to HHTrader starting out this week's episode of Wall Street and Web3. Covered government shutdown, covered privacy coins, some of the market moves. Solana, had a big fall from where it's been. But this is a whole different game than it used to be with cryptos. And as always, don't look on a daily chart, whether it's stocks, cryptos, whatever it is. Make sure you scale all the way back to a monthly chart. If you're looking at Solana here on jupe.ag, Jupiter, my favorite platform and governance and staking and all that stuff on Solana. It's a great community. Go check out Jupe if you are deep into the crypto world. But anyway, this is a whole different game now because it's just like stocks, the stock market, futures, all that. BlackRock and a lot of hedge funds have moved into crypto. So we're going to see really violent swings like this and probably see very quick jumps back up across a lot of cryptos. I don't spend a lot of time on the charts. So we go to our Google Gemini, our AI strategist, and talk to him here. And most of the gains for the entire year have been erased with this market-wide sell-off. The total crypto market cap fell sharply. Bitcoin down 7%. Still holding around 100,000. Trying to. Of course, altcoins, Solana, one of the hardest hit, falling over 15%. Ethereum down 12%. The biggest thing is the crypto fear and greed index has fallen to a 25. indicating extreme fear. You know, when we get real low, people get real scared and real greedy, meaning they don't want to lose any money. They're just selling to save any face, whatever, and they're just selling at losses and all that. So this is where I like to get greedy myself and picking up different cryptos. I love seeing the blood in the water that these hedge funds are causing. Sounds crazy, but if you look on Jupiter, because it shows you your average entries and exit, and I'm in and out of Solana all the time. This is right around where I usually play with Solana. So getting it down here around 160, we could see down 150, maybe even back down to 100. Who knows with current the economic situations and stuff. But with this crypto and fear greed index falling, extreme fear, I'm getting extremely hungry. I'm getting real hungry, right? So we did have a major hack on Monday, which never helps the crypto market. It always has a drop after there's a hack. That scares everybody away as well. Balancer was hacked for over $110 million, and it was a straight DeFi protocol, so decentralized finance. It wasn't like a gaming blockchain or a storage blockchain like Filecoin or Arweave, any of that. It's just straight money flowing in and flowing out, and they just got hit for $110 million. So it looks like they exploited a precision rounding error in Balancer's V2 stable pools. This tiny flaw was amplified 1,000 times, and the hackers were allowed to drain the pools. And this is where like coins like Bitcoin having all its security comes in very important. It's really hard to hack Bitcoin, and they were forced to pause the effective pools, and other protocols that integrate with it like Barachain had to take emergency measures. This is where it gets real serious. Balancer was considered a well-audited blue chip DeFi project. Well, just like in the stock market, we see hedge funds battling it out. We may see a company one day looks like a great company, and then all of a sudden they're no longer a company. They've went to the pink sheets. They're down into penny stocks. So I say it is all becoming the same game, Wall Street all the way to crypto. However, where there is negatives, there are positives. While Balancer may have took a massive hit to not only their wallets but also their reputation, Ripple continues to go crazy. $500 million in a new funding round that values Ripple at $40 billion. They raised $500 million. And guess what? It was led by major traditional finance players, including Fortress Investment Group and Citadel Securities. Hedge funds, the big money. It's not people in their basements playing with crypto anymore. This is a real financial market. Ripple announced a new partnership with MasterCard, Gemini, and Web Bank to use its forthcoming stablecoin RLUSD for payments. So MasterCard is going to be using one of Ripple's stablecoins for payments. And what do those hedge funds like more than anything? They love their ETFs and their fake little money things that they can manipulate. So there's a race for the XRP ETF. Firms like Franklin Templeton and Bitwise filed updated S1 applications with the SEC. We may be seeing XRP ETFs coming out. Of course, the government shutdown is affecting regulations for crypto, but not only that, we have a delayed release of the CPI report, the inflation data. So nobody knows where inflation is actually at. This is unforgivable. How can the most powerful supposed country in the world with the reserve currency, all of that, have their government shut down and no one knows? They don't know. The Federal Reserve doesn't know. This Google Gemini doesn't know. No one knows exactly where the inflation rate is at right now. No one. Now, maybe they do behind closed doors, whoever, but as far as we know, no one knows. That's a crazy thing to say, and that's why we're seeing a push into crypto by major hedge funds and institutions. You know, they're in gold, they're in oil, they're in stocks, they're in all that, but there's all this other money, all this new technology being built with blockchain, all these businesses being built on blockchain. Because if you don't know what the inflation rate is of the main currency, that's really hard to operate in for everybody. However, if you're using a stable coin that's backed, it gives a little bit more validity to it, because there's more than just the backing of saying, oh, it's backed by a dollar. There's actual liquidity pools, security protocols, all types of things that make it a stable coin. So it's clearly looking better to the hedge funds to be in these type of plays like XRP. Japan pushes stable coins. Japan's Financial Services Agency announces backing a pilot program for stablecoins, which will be run by the country's 3 largest banks. So Japan's 3 largest banks are getting together and working out their own stablecoin to work with. Moving on, everybody's worried about all the problems, and they're worried about their privacy. H talked about some privacy coins earlier, but I wanted to put a spotlight on Monero. Monero XMR has been around for a long time. Even Google Gemini agrees. With the government failure and economic instability, Monero is arguably the most relevant coin to watch. It is acting as the ultimate anti-system hedge. While the rest of crypto market is crashing due to fear and recession, Monero is actually rallying. So there's always a positive to those negatives. There's always a balance. So while Bitcoin and Ethereum are down because they are treated like risk assets by Wall Street, Monero is up, trading around 450 today. The why is investors are treating it as a safe haven from surveillance and government overreach. And you also have the US, who you pushing extreme financial surveillance, just like the social credit score with China and all that, which we'll be talking about. The demand for actually untraceable money is skyrocketing. The system is trying to take out Monero. They do not want privacy coins. They are working harder than ever to try to shut Monero down. European Union just confirmed it will fully ban all privacy coins by 2027 as a part of new anti-money laundering laws. For what? It's all the hedge funds and the big investors now that's in crypto. It's not people laundering money, unless you're saying that the hedge funds are laundering money, EU. Major compliant exchanges are being forced to drop it. Kraken just finalized its delisting of Monero for Canadian users in September. So they are trying to get rid of it, which admits that this is a coin that is a problem for the system, for them wanting to be able to watch everything we do, social credit scores. Monero is kind of acting like a gold or a silver rock, some would say more than Bitcoin. Now, just a few weeks ago, Monero developers released a major emergency update, Fluorine Fermi, to fight off a coordinated attack. So there's coordinated attacks for the nodes for control of the Monero blockchain. New spy nodes were found on the network trying to de-anonymize users by tracking their IP addresses. The new update blocks these nodes. It is an active technological arms race between Monero devs and whoever, likely state-level actors, trying to break its privacy. They were able to stop it, at least so far. So where, somebody, we don't know who, but somebody hacked that DeFi protocol balancer. We've got spy nodes trying to get people's information, de-anonymize the users by tracking their IP addresses on Monero. This is a financial economic war going on amongst all the countries, amongst different groups like the developers of Monero, who's trying to go against the system and create a currency and a blockchain where they can't know what you're doing. It's not really their business. That's how you like me and you don't think it's none of their business what you do. Like VPNs, and that's another thing that we'll talk about more, is decentralized VPNs, DVPNs. So there's DVPNs on Solana. Brave browser acts as a DVPN if you use its DVPN. There's a lot of different things in crypto and blockchain that is aimed at not giving up all your freedoms to the current systems in control and trying to create real solid money and ledgers for businesses to operate on, people to operate on without having to be taxed to death and worry about their every little move being judged or whatever. So this has been a real crazy week for crypto, from hacks to spy node wars to announcements of crazy regulations to not knowing what the inflation rate is because the government shut down. Just chaos all over the place. It makes sense why the greed and fear index are so low. People are scared, they're nervous, they don't know what is happening. But if you're doing your research and paying close attention to where all the big money is moving, all the hedge funds are moving, what they're trying to do with these crypto ETFs and other funds and futures and all that stuff, it's pretty clear where everything's going. So this blood in the markets right now, like I said, it's making me hungry.